Welcome back to Forging a Nation here in Iceland. We have been grafting so hard this year, trying to make progress in catching up to Portugal. Obviously, last time you saw us, it was in March of 2047, I think it was, maybe. After a very unsuccessful European campaign, really, for Icelandic teams. This year's been a little bit better, and we've also had one of our players be crowned the best in the world. Yeah, hi everyone, TJ here with another season review from our Forging a Nation, Building a Nation, whichever you want to call it, in Iceland with the threat of Pelagaiser. We've had some big sales, some fairly big arrivals, and lots of European stuff to catch you up on. Before we take a dive into all of that, if you want to do us a massive favour and drop a like down below, leave a comment how you think we're getting on. Is this going to be the year that we finally start to put some ground in, eat some ground up in terms of Europe? We are on course to overtake Portugal. We'll touch on that in a bit. But also we finally updated the stadium because the ground got increased by 8,000 seats. I feel like we've got a nice sort of jazzier looking stadium now. I really like it. I know it's AI generated and whatever, but it looks smart, I think. Anyway, let's go. We're going straight in with the transfers. So obviously after I saw you last time, we signed Metzler, we'd signed Carlos Francis, and we'd signed Carlos, as well as Sena Harada, the Japanese guy. So this was a player that we signed, I think, later on in the window in the April. Bear in mind, this is 12, 14 months after that. So Richmond Ayew came in highly rated from Asante Kotoko in Ghana. I believe it was Ghana. I'm assuming it's Ghana because he is a Ghanaian player. He's gone straight out into loan farm to HK, where he is played in a lot of Europa League games, playing in the league a lot for them, developing nicely. Whether he'll ever reach this 5-star remains to be seen. He's kind of not really what we would be looking for in terms of our defenders. We like our defenders to be a little bit more technical. But of 300k, and as you can see, he's already worth sort of 13.5 to 15. Seemed like too good a deal to sort of turn down, really. We spent a little bit more on Sigurd Mattisson coming in from Bodø, another Norwegian Bodø player who has been fantastic. Bodø have been a fantastic club in this save, generating some absolute gems. Obviously, we've got Bakker Hansen, who's been a real servant for us. We've had Jordan Hunt, who now plays for Barcelona, and obviously we've signed Dennis Rayton as well, who I'm pretty sure was also another Bodø player. Potential backup keeper Lenny Charpentier is just unreal, but unfortunately everyone else is now really starting to appreciate that. They just keep lowballing us. We signed him for 31.5 mil. He's so much better than he was then, and we're getting bids 25 million. But the problem is that he's starting to get a little bit unsettled because he wants to win the Champions League, and in the past we said, yeah, but you're really influential, and he's been like, oh yeah, I never thought of myself that way, and now he's like, no, I just want to go somewhere win the Champions League. We've actually had to promise him. The only way we could keep him happy for now was that we said we're going to win the Champions League in 2 years, which realistically is not going to happen because the overall status of the squad is just not quite at a level, I think, where we can consistently compete at an even level across the board. Obviously last season we lost to Real Madrid despite dominating both legs. You'll see what happened this year, which was also very frustrating. We were in a real chance. We should have got to the quarterfinals. Slight spoiler alert: we should have got to the quarterfinals, but we didn't. And for reasons completely outside of our control, which we will touch on. But anyway, so we've got 2 years to. So the 2 years is from, weirdly enough, actually kicks in next season because. So he's given us 2 seasons to win it, so it expires in 2051, not 2058, basically, because it's going to go sort of I found it weird, but basically, yeah, that's how it's going to be. We've managed to give ourselves 3 seasons to do a 2-year promise. But yeah, anyway, back to Sigurd Mattisson. He's either going to be a good player or he isn't. He's either going to be a backup keeper for us. Really doesn't have the potential to push on, but he's either going to be backup or we're going to loan farm him, and he's going to do well out there, or he doesn't. I find with keeper ratings on this FM, they always get really low star ratings, but they still end up being really good keepers. Like Lenny Charpentier, I'm pretty sure when we signed him, he wasn't a 4.5-star keeper, even potential. Now I know stars are variable before you at me in the comments. Or if you want to ironically just go, stars are variable in the comments, help with the algorithm, go for it. You can even do it in the SpongeBob capital, uppercase, lowercase, and, do your best sort of SpongeBob meme. And Roberto Chiapara also, his ratings, he joined at like 2.5, 3 stars, and his ratings just went up over like the whole time he was with us, like 4.5 stars or 4 stars. But anyway, we'll see what happens with Sigurd Matheson. That's a very long-winded way of saying we'll see what happens. Now, Guillermo Gusto have been making noises about leaving for quite a few seasons, and we finally were at a point where we're like, right, okay, yeah, we will sell you in the summer. We're going to have to do that. We can't keep him. And Robert Swaby. I'm used to having all these sort of, foreign continental names, so instinctively went to Roberto. Robert Swaby is coming from Burnley for 52 million. Basically, he is a midfielder, but we are training him to play as an inverted wing back. We think he has the technical attributes to do a wing back role quite nicely if we can work on them. So if his passing can come up, he's already got decent technique, decent vision. He's not he's reasonably nippy. He could be better, and his jumping reach could also be better. But his mentals are quite nice as well, so I'm hopeful that, he will turn into a decent inverted wing back for us. But he's English, so the worst case scenario, I'm sure we'll have to flip him back. He is also, I'm pretty sure, our highest earner as well. He wanted big money, and I felt like it was worth the sort of the punt and paying him what he wanted to come. Likes big matches, consistent, brave, athletic, versatile, etc. I think he's a good signing. I'm obviously not going to touch on every single signing because some of them are loan farm signings and they're players who you may never ever see. But Francesco Battistoni is someone who's just come in basically to be a rotation option on that right-hand side. He can also play on the left if needed, but primarily he's going to just be a depth option. Inverted wing back on the right-hand side, 7.25 mil from Inter. He was transfer listed. Just felt like a good little deal. He's happy to be a fringe player, so we're sound with that. Basically means that if push comes to shove and we're stuck for numbers, we need to cut someone from the squad, we can realistically not register him and he won't complain. Someone who I do think could potentially be a good little option for us in defence. Don't get me wrong, he's certainly lacking in some areas, but as a defensive option, he's quite solid, and that is Victor Manuel, who's coming from Inter Milan for 37 million. He was also transfer listed, and he is actually now wanted a year later by these clubs, so we'll see what happens with him. There may be some movement on him over the summer. Don't get me wrong, he's 27. I don't think realistically we're going to see much more of an improvement in these, but he's been a decent little option for us. As you can see, some decent ratings, weighed in with a goal here and there. So, and a few assists. So we'll see. He's got the versatility. We mainly play him as a central defender. We can play him on the right if we need to. So yeah, it's like what we were saying last year. We've got the money to spend at the moment, so we are kind of just spending it, but just being mindful that FFP, could potentially buy it at some point, because we've held off on signing players for a couple of years because there was no one really out there to improve our squad, and we've started to find players who will, but we're also holding on to a lot of players now, so we're making quite a few signings, and I feel like eventually we're going to have to start bumping up the sales to sort of balance it out. I know FFP rarely tends to be an issue and money kind of appears from places, but the effect that it can have just in general though can be quite problematic. Like you hear of boards selling players from under you to balance the books. So like if a bid comes in for a player which they deem as too good to turn down because of the club's perilous FFP situation, they will just sell them. And also it can affect your player's value as well. So if you're sort of sailing close to the wind in terms of FFP, your player value will drop because clubs will feel like they can lowball you because you need the money realistically. As if you're in a strong financial position, it's going to probably bump your player value up because you're not under the pressure to sell. So basically, if clubs want your players, they're going to have to bid big money. If you need the money to balance the books, they're going to be like, well, we'll give you 30 mil for this 60 mil player because you need the money. And a player who I am kind of excited about potentially is Roberto Samudio, the Brazilian Paraguayan player. We've managed to get out straight into the loan farm at Breither. As you can see, in his first game in the Milk Cup, as we found out it's called, the FA Cup, he got a hat-trick and an assist. I can't remember who that was against in Italy. But yeah, in the Leng Yubakar, he got 5 goals in three games. So, I'm hopeful that he could turn into a decent player. We signed him from Atletico Paranense out in Brazil for 13.25 mil, loaned him out to, I think he's a Paraguayan. Yes, and he did quite well for them. And then he's come back and we've managed to get him out into Breither. So he's potentially 5-star. We'll see. But yeah, hopefully he might be someone who knows, in a couple of years' time we might actually be seeing him in the first team squad. Kind of like we did with Angel Hernandez, who we signed on a cheap release clause, and he turned into, you know, a good loan farm player before Breither elected not to renew that, and then he was solid for us. So Samudio might well end up being that same sort of player. And then like last year was kind of a summer where we did actually just go a little bit mad on spending a decent amount of money on defenders, because Mohamed, I'm assuming it's Mohamed Kabai or Kabaj, not Mohamed Cabbage. We signed him from PSG for just under 20 mil, transfer listed, likes big matches, really good jumping reach for his height of 6'4". A squad player, we've had to sort of cut him from the squad, which he wasn't happy about, so we said we'll loan him out, but if we register him, it'll probably just go away. Basically, he's like a slightly, I don't know, he's kind of like good at the things that Victor Manuel maybe isn't as good at, but equally Victor Manuel is also better than him in other regards. Like Victor Manuel's got better passing, he's more, not ambidextrous because that's hands, but he's good on both feet, whereas Cabbage doesn't have that. But yeah, you know, he's a decent option. He's got big game experience because he's been playing for PSG. He likes big matches very much so. So that can only be a good thing for us when it comes to the Champions League, even if he's maybe not got the technical ability. And because of his consistency, he's hopefully likely to perform at a higher level in those games. Who knows, that could just be the difference we need sometimes. We're now going to touch on outs, and just a reminder, obviously one of the players who did leave was Salvador Vitor. If you notice the faces are different, it's because we refreshed the face back, because obviously some of the players were, you know, they probably had the same face since they were like 18, and you know, as they get older, you know, the in-game new gen face will change a little bit as they change, so you know, hair will change and stuff like that. Every now and then we just like to refresh, we completely rewrite the new faces, which might seem a bit of a strange thing to do or say, but that's what we do. Yeah, so Salvador Vitor went out for 38 mil, basically what we signed him for, to Nice, and it's frustrating to see his value is so high. But yeah, so he went. I went in amongst some few sort of loan farm players leaving or whatever. Like we had Niquinho leave, who we touched on a while ago. He went to Spurs. They bid for him. We made a sort of 3 mil profit on him, for example. He'd never really played, but Joe Apples, you may remember we talked about him. He signed permanently for Hafnarfjord. That was a conversion of a loan move into a permanent signing. And yet the next big sale was Guillermo Gusto, as we touched on. He went to Chelsea for 42 million. And I'm pretty sure when we signed him, I think it was like 13 mil. 5 mil, sorry. So that was a really good profit on a player who'd been really good for us. He's done a good job in the loan farm as well at HK. And yeah, fair play to him. Good luck. I hope he does well at Chelsea. In fact, actually, I think he did do well at Chelsea because I think they won the Champions League this year. So let me check. Was it them who won the Champions League? Yeah, he won the Champions League. He also won the FA Cup. So good on him. And looking at his Champions League performances, he probably played a decent part in that as well. So yeah, fair play. But yeah, he went to Chelsea for 42 mil, nice profit. As I said, we knew we were going to have to sell him, so we managed to recoup some of that Robert Swavey money, basically. And as we said last time, the next big sale, we did suspect Angel Hernandez would leave in the summer, and he did, and he went to Wolves for 53 million. So he had been a player who had been a really good servant to the save, really. 3 good years at Breither, then came back to us. We didn't really expect him to kick on the way he did, especially in that first season when he was absolutely ruthless. Even in the second season, it says he's only got 10 goals there, but that's just in the league. He actually got 25 in all comps. This season, his first sort of full season with the club, he got 41. And even to be fair, this season before we sold him, he was actually doing all right. And then he's gone to Wolves for 45 mil, but it's potentially for 53 based primarily on appearances, which, looking at the amount of games he's played for Wolves this season, we will get that. I think it's 50. I think that 9.5 mil comes in after 50 appearances. So, but yeah, we knew we were going to have to do it. He'd been making moves about, noises about wanting to make a move when clubs were bidding for him. So yeah, off he went. And I suppose really the last big sale of that window was Vicente Julio, the Ecuadorian who we had signed for how much? 950k. He'd done well at Hafnarfjordur on loan. We then brought him back, or they didn't renew his loan. I can't remember. We either didn't offer him back out for loan, or they didn't renew. But anyway, he did well for us. And then a couple of clubs were bidding for him. We felt like maybe he was never going to be quite the required level that we wanted to really sort of push us on to the next sort of level. He has actually developed quite nicely out at Leicester. These attributes have really come up. But yeah, to get 37 million for someone who we paid 900k for when we weren't really convinced about how much we were going to be able to squeeze out of him, it seemed a good deal. And yeah, I mean, he's gone to Leicester, which I guess, sounding snobby kind of says the level he's at. They finished 9th in the Prem. Did they finish 9th in the Prem? Yeah. I wasn't sure if that was just alphabetical, but yeah, they finished 9th in the Prem. Admittedly, just missed out on the Conference League to Wolves, but, I think that was a good deal, really. So that concluded last season's business, and we did actually finish with a profit of about 80 million. And now we move on to this year, and we've gone a little bit stupid, I won't lie to you. We spent 540 million pounds. Basically, I went through and signed about 150 to 200 million pounds worth of loan farm players, because I felt like we'd really neglected the loan farm lately. And we just went through and just went, we'll have you, and you. And the challenge is actually proving to be getting them out, because the loan farm had actually dwindled to about 15 to 20 players, good players out on loan at the main clubs who wanted them at. But yeah, we needed to sort of really start beefing it out a little bit more. If we can't get them out into Iceland, we'll just loan them to other clubs just to try and keep their value. But one player we did sign, and we have touched on him before, is Takeaki Kasai, who came in from Spurs. Basically, he wanted to leave for continental football. We have had our eye on him for a while because he just looks incredible. And we paid Spurs 99 million for him, which is a bit crazy. He's on 210k per week. He is actually worth double what we signed him for. It might be that he only stays here for a couple of years, but I'm hoping that sort of quality and class that he has, 89 caps, 95 goals for Japan, might just help come in clutch in the big games. Big matches, consistent, all really, really good. So we'll see. It's an experiment. It might not work, but yeah, who knows. Another player we signed for big money was Gabriele Barini, who was transfer listed by request from Southampton. Someone to basically just beef out that left-sided inverted fullback slot, but he does have the versatility to play through the middle as well. Yeah, basically just signed him because we just wanted someone with a little bit more quality to play out on that left-hand side. Another player that we brought in was Desni Vermink, and we have been keeping an eye on him for a couple of years. And we got a notification in December saying his contract was expiring in 6 months, but he didn't want to talk to us. He wanted to wait until near the time, and you all know how that ends. You wait till near the time, then March, April, like City or a Madrid come in and go, here you go, we'll offer you a contract. And he goes, yeah, I'm off, but you won't talk to, he wouldn't talk to us. So we actually made the decision in the January to avoid the risk of that happening, of a bigger team coming in and sort of getting him on a free. We offered PSV the money for him, a little bit more. I think he was worth, I think he was, last season he was worth what he was there, maybe a little bit less. But in the January, I think he was worth about 35 to 40 mil. We ended up paying sort of 43 and a half. That was like an installments package just to kind of get the deal done, because we wanted him really. He got on the right wing. We just felt like we wanted a little bit more quality in depth for Alexandre Andre. And also because he's strong on his left foot, we're retraining him to play on the left wing as well, to give us that sort of versatility on the left, because he can then cover for Mutzel basically. So yeah, we're working on that, and yeah, he's actually started really nicely. 6 goals, 7 assists in 9 league appearances, so can't complain with that. And then this realistically was the last of the big sort of stupid signings I think that we did, like in terms of first team players. Tomasz Vajic, maybe? Another Southampton player, 79 million. You might think I'm mad. But basically, he's very versatile. Weirdly enough, he can't play the 10, but he was natural at CM and very accomplished. Accomplished at CM and natural at attack. But I'm actually training him for Volante, and then also we'll probably look at. I've also looked at a bit of number 10 training as well for that versatility. But yeah, kind of like a Giordano Lissi, who was very much more of an attacking player, but had a little bit of sort of more proficiency at playing at DM. We're training him to basically play that because we don't really have someone after Lissi who can play that Volante role as efficiently as Lissi does. But I'm hoping Tomasz might do that. But he's 28. He's very much sort of a player for now rather than for the future. And we'll see. It'll probably be that we end up making a loss on him, as you kind of tend to do, in real life when you sign players who you want right now for this moment. They often end up sort of decreasing in value because you squeeze what you can out of them and they're peaking them in the 32, 33. You just kind of get what you can. So yeah, like I said, after the signing of him, a lot of these other players were like loan farm players, really, who we've just sort of tried to bring in. So players like Mehmet Topal have gone out on loan to HK. And then we've got Nicolas Ferrari is out on loan at Breither. Jorge Alves, we've taken a little bit of a gamble on some of these players with the amount we've spent on them, like Daniel Estevez, 23 million. He is actually out on the loan farm, to be fair. But Jorge Alves, we cannot get out on the loan farm. Kyron Candido, also really struggling. Gustavo Pitbull, we signed him kind of because of the name, really. But if we can get him a loan move, great. But the rest of these are pretty much all just loan farm players, to be honest with you. I'm not really expecting us to really see a huge amount of them unless they sort of really develop. In fact, a player who is, I will touch on sort of quick, I won't show you him properly, but I will just sort of touch on Everton. We signed from Fluminense for 10 mil. Number 10 could potentially be a decent player for us, but it's actually, we're actually getting some loan bids for him from like clubs in Italy. It looks like I'm kind of expecting another one to come in from Spezia, I think it is. We've had bids from like Udinese and stuff, but I think it's Spezia. Sort of, we've had a notification saying, "Oh, Spezia interested in a loan deal." So we'll see what happens with him. If we can't get him out into the Icelandic league, we'll loan him out and just to sort of maintain that value for him. He's a good player, but I just don't know if with the options we have, realistically, if he's going to get a huge amount of game time, especially with him being a non-EU player. But yeah, he had a release clause of 10 mil, seemed a good player, and brought him in. Arva Seither is a player who we might see a bit of action with. He's currently out on loan at Rosenborg, just seeing out the end of the season. But he's 19, he's only got 3-star potential. But with this passing, I feel like he could potentially be a decent little rotation option for the advanced playmaker on the right-hand side. We'll see. We'll see what happens. He might not really turn into anything. He might just end up being another loan farm player, but we'll see. We'll give him a whirl when he comes back. Now, in terms of outs, the biggest one really was Daniel Schumacher to Man City for 96 million. Basically, we kept getting bids for him. He kept wanting to move eventually to like these bigger teams. And as sort of brutal as it sounds, when I saw that when he hit 22 and he developed dislike big matches, I was like, off you go. Like, I don't need that. Like, sounds a bit brutal in big matches, maybe, in isolation, if you've got only a couple of players who don't like them, it might not make that much of an impact. But we are so below the level, I feel, of some of these elite teams in general and what we can consistently do. Like, Man City, Real Madrid, Liverpool, etc., Barcelona, are teams that we can have a good go at on our day and get a result on our day. But consistently being able to deliver against these big teams, I just don't know if we're quite there yet. I don't think we're far, but I think we, to be at a point where we can comfortably just go to Man City and just put like 2-3 goals past them, or, same with Real Madrid, we can dominate them, but we can't get the ball in the net, for example. Like, these fine margins, if a player doesn't like big matches, they're not going to deliver at their full potential in those big games. And carrying someone like Schumacher, who doesn't like big matches, basically is just sitting there as a valuable asset. I was like, okay, off you go. Like, go. We signed him for 8.75 mil. We sold him for 80 mil, 60 mil in add-ons. That's going to come in because he's playing. Yeah, I was just like, yeah, off you go. We've got Carlos Francis. He'll just fill in for you instead. The next big out was Ilya Jokovic, who's looking a little bit battered in that picture. Is that a bit battered and bruising? Basically, someone who we'd signed, not actually expecting to be as good as he was, which sounds weird. How much we signed him for? 4.1 million from Red Star, Zvezda, and as you can see, like he just sort of became more and more integral to the team over his time there. Like, you know, in that his first full season, 20 goals and 23 assists, 21 goals and 26 assists in that one. I'm kind of in the way a little bit, but you know, you kind of get the picture and reading out the numbers for the whole sort of competitions. 10 and 19 in that season, admittedly a little bit of a drop off, but his average rating was still actually very, very good. And then, yeah, the bids are coming in. He wanted to go. We had to agree to sell him for a certain value. So he's gone to Barcelona, where fair play to him. He's started 7, subbed on in 6, 5 goals so far in the league. So yeah, I think in total, yeah, we're going to get 73 million for him with installments. So yeah, that's 55 mil with another 18 in add-ons. So yeah, good bit of business and really just helped bolster the coffers. And there weren't really any more significant outs, just a load of loan farm players leaving, really. Sena Harada, we touched on him last time. He's actually gone to Breither on a permanent deal. Basically, a lot of these loan farm players, if we sign them and can't get them out, but an Icelandic team bids for them, like permanently, we just sell them for, you know, whatever. Often means we make a loss on it, but that's fine. But yeah, as you can see, after the profit last year, we made a staggering loss this year of over 400 million. And that's just because we basically just spaffed all this money on these players for the loan farm, who hopefully will go out. Now we move on to Europe. So after all that Champions transfer talk, we need to get down to business. So Champions League phase kicked off against Marseille once again, and not great. Felt like we should have done better, really. But yeah, 1-1. Bit disappointing, but yeah, I feel like whenever we play Marseille, we always have a bit of a tight game. And then we played Bayern Munich, who last time we played them, we beat them 4-0. This time, we did not play well, really. We were lucky to get a draw in Munich, to be honest with you. Yeah, Carlos Mutzel not quite putting it. But yeah, Charpentier with the 7.7 kind of tells you really what the story was. But then we went to Naples and picked up our first win. The late goal from Napoli made things a little bit nervous, but realistically, we thoroughly deserved the 2-1. Probably should have made life a bit easier for ourselves, but it's fine. We got the win. That's all that mattered. And then we started strutting our stuff and we smashed Maccabi Haifa 8-1 with Robert Swaby actually getting a hat-trick as well. He ended up moving into midfield for this game. Basically, we sort of went for, as you can see, Manuel, Ramsvik, Al-Shamrani, and Al-Shamrani and Hampton in the back four. I think that was because Lisi was injured, or was coming back from an injury, maybe. So, not sure why. Not sure why we played Swaby in the middle. I can't remember. It's been a while. And then we came up against another Italian opposition, this time at Inter, and we smashed them 4-1. I'm pretty sure it was Charpentier saving that penalty, and it could have been a very different story if he hadn't done so. And actually, when we went 1-0 up, they pulled it back pretty much straight away. But then in the second half, we just didn't really look back. Comfortable 4-1 win in the end. And yeah, just touching on it being a while, I am sorry about that. Basically, I've been working a lot of overtime lately. So I've either not had the time to record, or to be honest, not even had the energy. I've been working at an out of hours surgery, so I've been working quite long hours, late hours, etc. So yeah, I've been very busy. So I'm sorry that it's taken me almost 2 weeks to get this second video out. And then we welcomed Newcastle to Iceland, and it was a very sort of cagey 1-1 at half time. We probably slightly edged it. And then they brought on Mohamed Al-Adur at half time, and he completely tore his shreds in that second half and basically set them up or was involved in 3 of their goals in 8 minutes, and they just slaughtered us. Newcastle did actually get to the Champions League final this year, where they lost to Chelsea. And then after taking the lead against Monaco, we then threw it away and lost 2-1 in the second leg. And basically their goals have such a high XG because they're both tap-ins from 5 yards. I don't know what happened with our defence, but disgusted. Yeah, really, really infuriating. especially when in the last game of the league phase we relied on a Dennis Reitan 83rd minute equaliser to get a result away at Wolves, which meant that we literally just snuck into the top 8 of the playoff places, not even the top 8 overall, which is obviously really annoying when you think that we finished in the top 8 last season. We were really hoping to build on that, but the loss to Monaco and the draw against Wolves just completely screwed us over. We really should have done better. And our reward would be Benfica, and we were thinking, great, chance to get one over Portugal, and we lost 2-0 away. I mean, you can look at Al Shamrani and Victor Manuel with a 6.1 and a 6.3 respectively in that issue. Just not good enough, really not good enough. But back in Iceland, within 5 minutes, we'd levelled the tie, and then it took 2 late-ish goals from Mohamed Sangare and Carlos Francis to get the win done in normal time, and we won 4-2 on aggregate. And our reward would be Liverpool, a team who we played once before and beat them after they went down to 10 men. And this was a very bizarre game. There was 0 highlights basically in the first half, with not a single shot from either team being recorded by half-time. And to be fair, the goal from Ramsvik was very lucky. It is generous to credit Sangare with the assist. The ball comes out from a corner, he shoots, it hits Ramsvik and completely throws the keeper and it goes in. But we take the 1-0 wins. And then we went to Anfield. And despite them taking the lead inside 13 minutes to level the tie, we'd actually created quite a few chances before then. We'd hit the bar a couple of times and we were looking like we could keep creating. That was until Gerritsen 2-foot someone in the 26th minute and gets a straight red and costs us the tie. After that, we just really struggled to get a foothold in the game. We just really could not get anything out of it. And wasn't helped by the fact that Carlos had been injured. Mutzel was just coming back from injury as well, so that's why he didn't start. That's why we were playing Sangare on the left. Andre was also injured. He was only just coming back. Did he torn his hamstring or broken his leg or something? So Carlos Francis was having to deputise out on the right. Yeah, so really infuriating, because I felt like before the red card, I wasn't too worried about the fact that we were 1-0 down, because I felt like we were creating stuff and it was only a matter of time realistically before we scored. But once we went down to 10 men, we just couldn't hold the game at all. We tried all sorts, we just couldn't keep them at bay, and they just sort of overran us in the end. And then Breidablik with the other team from Iceland going into the Champions League. And as you can see, they gave Dortmund a bit of a go, but they did not have anything in the tank for when they went to Dortmund. They went straight into the Europa League phase where they started well. Nice 3-0 win at home to Anderlecht before losing narrowly away at Getafe 3-2, getting smashed really by Ajax 3-1. They did manage to pick up a very important win against Porto Menenche of Portugal at home, and then beat Puskás Academia 2-0. They then got a very respectable 1-1 draw at home to Arsenal. Then they actually took the lead in this game, and they then beat Cluj 4-1 and AEK 1-0, and that saw them go through to the round of 16. They came in the top 8, and they would play off against Braga, Portuguese opposition, and they got a nice narrow 1-0 win away from home. Great for the coefficient, and we thought, going back to Iceland, they should get this done. And after a fashion, they did. Admittedly, they had to rely on a Sebastian Rodriguez goal in extra time, because it finished 3-2 in normal time, so they lost coefficient points, but they did at least dump Braga out. And their reward would be another game against Arsenal, whereas this time they just didn't have it in them to get anything here at the Emirates. They lost 3-1 and then lost 2-0 at home, and that was them out at the quarterfinals of the Europa League. But progress, it's what we like. Then with Hafnarfjörður, who went straight in at the Europa League phase this year, and they kicked things off in the best way possible, beating Sporting 4-2 at home. Just what we want. Portuguese opposition mudded. We love it. They then drew 0-0 with Ajax, drew 2-2 and frustratingly with Ostende, but beat Malmö 3-0. They also faced off against Arsenal and were unfortunate enough to lose 2-1. Before a 1-0 draw with Sunderland, a 2-1 win over Gladbach, and then a 1-0 loss to Udinese. This 1-0 loss to Udinese, I'm pretty sure, is the one that cost them a place in the top 8. It would have been a little bit of a stretch, but if they'd have won it, they might have had a chance, but it just wasn't meant to be. And we were seeing a little bit of a theme here with Icelandic clubs playing off against teams who they played in the league phase, as their reward would be a playoff game against Hafnarfjörður against Sporting. And they drew 2-2 away from home, good solid result, and we felt like they really had a good chance back in Iceland to get the job done. And we were right, a comfortable 3-0 win at home, and they sailed through into the next round, where they would play against a team who they had also played in the league phase in Sunderland. And yeah, the own goal really, I think, killed this tie, to be honest with you. They did obviously score after that, but 2-0 down at home. Realistically, it was always going to be a mission for them to get back into the game and also to then get anything from the tie with them sort of losing that home advantage. And yeah, that was the case. They were comfortably outclassed in the Northeast. They lost 2-1 to Sunderland and they crashed out at the round of 16. Obviously, these have previously reached, 2 Conference League finals and Europa League final. There's been a few managerial changes, like HK have lost their manager, Breiters manager's retired, Hafnarfjord have lost their manager. In fact, HK have lost 2 managers. Basically, they've both been poached. One went to Marseille, and I think one went to someone quite big. The Hafnarfjord manager went to Chelsea, and I can't remember who it was who went to. The other HK manager went to someone else. Maybe he went to Chelsea as well after the other manager left. I can't remember, but yeah, they've been poached by big teams in sort of the top 5. And the final Europa League team was HK, who had to do it the hard way going through the qualifying rounds, and they did actually make things a little bit difficult for them when they lost 3-4 away at Midtjylland, before they did actually get the job done at home with a 2-0 win. They then played off against Oberlin, and they beat them 7-2 on aggregate before losing in their first league phase games 4-1 and 3-1 respectively to Freiburg and Genoa. Not an ideal start, but they did then get back on the horse with a 2-0 win away to Zurich, 1-0 win away at AAB in Denmark, and then they drew 1-1 at home to Eindhoven. But they finished strong with 3 straight wins away at Olympiacos, at home to Celta Vigo, and at home to Donetsk Streda. And those last 3 wins actually propelled them into that top 8 spot. So as you can see, we have Breither and HK finishing in the top 8, with Hafnarfjord finishing 14th. I just thought I'd show you that before we get onto the HK fixtures. But that was brilliant progress. To have 2 teams come in the top 8 was fantastic. And their award for the round of 16 would be Bordeaux, and they lost 4-2 away from home, and they were really outclassed. And to score from their 2 shots on target, that proved to be vital, because an 89th minute equaliser from Thomas Vasby sent the game into extra time, and they actually pulled out the bag on penalties. They then went to Eindhoven, where they drew 0-0, before getting the job done at home 2-0 to see them through into a semi-final where they would play Genoa. And similar to in the league phase, they would lose. They lost 2-1 away in Genoa, and you know what, we felt like back at home they could potentially get that done. But an 89th minute equaliser from Magnus Kaspersen was cancelled out by a 95th minute on the night leveller, aggregate leader from Volkan Agur of Genoa, and my heart broke for them. To be so close to taking the tie to extra time with a shot of getting to the Europa League final, absolutely gutting. And last but by no means least was the team we touched on last time, and that was Leiknir Reykjavik, managed by Viktor Karl Arnesen, who you might remember from early on in the series. They were going at the Europa League for the first time, as far as we were aware, in their history playing in any European competition, certainly of the save, and they actually came really close. They played Austria Lustenau and they beat them 3-2 on aggregate from the third qualifying round, and they actually managed to beat Fiorentina 1-0 at home, but they lost 2-0 away, which saw them crash out. And I felt like, you know what, they actually surpassed their expectations and they actually did pretty well. But as we found out with these Conference League teams, they're so hit and miss as to how consistently they can do that. I just don't know if they're going to be able to sustain that and get back there this year, which really is kind of the point we need at this stage. We need teams to consistently be getting into Europe now to really sort of bump their reputation. Especially as next year we will be starting on more points than Portugal. That's right, we will be going up 6th at the end of this season. So that means that we're going to have 6 teams going into Europe. So we're going to have 3 Champions League teams, 2 going straight in at the league phase, 1 going in at the qualifiers, and then we're going to have a Europa League and a 2 Europa League teams and a Conference League team. And you may think, well, hang on, that says for the start of next season. Don't you mean shouldn't it be this season? spoiler alert, I've already played on ahead, and we do go in with 6 teams. Like the end of this season, we have 6 teams basically who will be going into Europe the following season. So this summer, going into the Champions League, we'll still just have 5, but the following season, which is, again, spoiler alert, actually where I'm up to, I'm in the summer of the following season, we've got 6 teams competing in Europe. Yeah. So it's working, hopefully. But we did actually have, let me find them, Ram have they gone back to semi? No, they are pro. But spoiler alert, they've gone back to semi-pro for some reason, which is really frustrating. But I'm hopeful that they will revert back to that. Basically, we've had Valor and Fram now both go professional and then go semi-professional again, which is really frustrating. But I'm hopeful that things are going to start shifting as clubs start getting more consistent European money and reputation. But yeah, hopefully it will work, and we'll finally start making some progress on that top 5. But to get top 6 is huge. So we did actually, as I said, manage to spend pretty much all of that transfer shit. And as you can see, the finances are taking a little bit of a hit. We are still on course to pass FFP, but we'll just have to keep a close eye on that. How close are we? Projected to make £111 million profit, but yeah. Like I said, I've never actually really had an FFP failure. I've never had to be banned from a competition, in FM over the years since it's been a thing. I always find the club just sort of magic money from somewhere, but equally, this is the first FM where I've seen screenshots on Reddit of clubs going into administration, so who knows what could happen. Well, as I said, it's the effect it can have on your transfer strategy, I find, is the problem, because it does sort of knacker that. But yeah, we should be fine, but lots to look into. I'm kind of struggling with where to sign. I'm trying to find defenders, like central defenders, because I feel like Baka Hansen, Manuel and Kabaj are, good, but not quite elite level at the same way that, say, like an Al Shamrani is, for example. But it's actually finding someone who is comfortably better than what we already have and worth the money that the clubs who are selling them want for them. There's obviously elite defenders at like Man City and Real Madrid and Barcelona, but they're on like ridiculous money and they're not going to take a pay cut to come to us. So we're having to look at players at clubs like Inter or Milan or even PSG with Kabaj. But they're, again, kind of a lot of the time they're cast-offs, and if they're not, they're like 84 million release clauses and they want like 150 to 200k a week, and some of them aren't necessarily a massive step above what we already have to justify that outlay. But this is kind of the point we're at now, where we're really having to sort of try and it's coming back to the fine margins really. And I almost forgot. The best player in the world thing, Alexandre Andre, won the FIFA Pro Player of the Year, which is pretty good, I would say. Lovely to see. As you can see, average rating of 8.1, admittedly over less games than Hugo and Gabriel Vinaturo. It's not quite the Ballon d'Or, don't get me wrong, but it's still a very prestigious award. I think FIFA Pro is kind of like, isn't Ballon d'Or like an offshoot of FIFA Pro or something like that? Ballon d'Or, I think, is voted for, as we know, by journalists, and I'm not sure who picks who wins FIFA Pro. But I mean, you can only have to look down and see Sergi Tabakaru, who was an absolute beast. We can't actually see, but I mean, you can just see the numbers he put for Barcelona, but attributes-wise, he was incredible. We have to go back. We've got Lewandowski, Messi, Modric, Ronaldo, Lewandowski, Haaland, Mbappe, Saka, Mbappe, Vinny Jr., Yamal, etc. So, been won by lots of very, very good players over the years, and now one of those players is ours. Well, I hope you have enjoyed that recap, everyone. That is it for today. I will see you all very soon for the next one. As I said, sorry about the delay. I have, as I've said before, managed to sort of play on to the next one. Basically, when I'm just chilling out of an evening after work, I'm just sort of sticking FM on, while just there's some, white noise on in the background, whatever sort of TV is on that, I can sort of half pay attention to. And I've just been trying to blitz through. So That one, with a bit of luck, will be following closely to this one. I am working overtime again tomorrow, but I will be about hopefully on Sunday, so I'll try and get some done in between Sunday afternoon, Super Sunday football. Yeah, I'll try and... I'm conscious of the fact that we basically went from having like an episode sort of twice a week a few months ago. It's then kind of been once a week, and then obviously this time it's been hopefully very much the exception, where it's been actually a couple of weeks since I've managed to record anything. That's not going to become a trend. I want to try and get it back to once a week minimum, hopefully try and get it back to a couple of episodes a week if I can kind of keep going at the pace I'm at. The problem with trying to do it, it kind of takes me roughly about a week to do a season. So it might be that we do end up sort of just sticking at the one a week, but we'll see. But yeah, thank you so much for your patience. I hope you are still enjoying this. I appreciate it a little bit of a drag now that we're having to wait for FM25 and the content's maybe a little bit stale now, but I'm still enjoying the save, and for those people who are still interested, I'll keep doing these to keep the videos, to keep you up to date. Obviously I appreciate that, you might be getting a little bit tired of it now and just FM in general, but I'll keep doing it for those of you who want to know what's happening. So thank you so much for your patience, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for still being here, and I really appreciate it. Take care, and bye for now.